Hi team, greetings for the day. Welcome to one of the important session about tools. Today, I'm going to talk about the MS Visio. In this session, we are trying to discuss about the importance of the tool, how to use the tool, and we are also going to run the complete diagrams or the most important diagrams used by the BA in this session. I hope this would be a very useful and a very interesting session. So, before I get into the diagrams of the MS Visio, I would definitely want to talk about the importance of MS Visio and how the MS Visio can be useful to the business analyst. So, before I get into the tool, first let's talk about why should I do the diagrams. Okay. So let me share my screen a minute. Okay, if you look at my screen, guys, I have clearly mentioned that MS Visio, or sorry, a business analyst has multiple responsibilities or roles to play in a project. And we also know that the project has multiple phases. So what are the phases of the project? The first phase would be to requirement analysis phase. Requirement analysis phase. The next one would be requirement I would use the word planning here and analysis. There, just a second, guys. Planning phase, and then we have requirement analysis phase, right? Then we have the design phase, then we have the development phase, then we have the testing phase, then we have the deployment phase, and even some companies also say that maintenance is also the phase of the project, right? Right now, we will not get into all of these phases, guys, but we'll definitely talk about this third phase that is called as the design phase. So guys, I'm sure, as you all know, if I really convert these phases into the responsibilities of a business analyst, the business analyst has to initially gather the requirements, right? Then he would make sure he would use multiple elicitation techniques to gather the requirements, right? Then he would use different documents, right? Then he would use different documents to get to document these requirements, whatever you have gathered. And then one of the important responsibility of a BA is to model the requirements. Now, what do you mean by modeling the requirements? Guys, please understand, whenever the client gives you the requirements, he would just read out the requirements, or probably he has a certain document that he would share, which would explain the requirements. But as a business analyst, you will understand because you're talking to the client. But not every team would understand what the requirements are 100%. So, in order to create this transparency, in order to make sure every stakeholder in the project understands the requirements in a very crystal clear manner, we would model the requirements. As a business analyst, we would model the requirements in multiple ways. For that, we would use diagram, we would use wireframes, we would use mockups, and so on and so forth. Okay, so today I would not get into the wireframes and the mockups, guys. However, I will definitely want to talk about the diagrams. Okay, so now what do you mean by this diagram? A diagram in a business analysis scenario is nothing but a visual representation of the diagram of the requirement. Sorry, right? So now what you need to understand here is, as a business analyst, you need to explain the stakeholders what exactly could be the requirements all about. For that, you will might construct certain process diagrams, right? Probably certain user related diagrams and so on and so forth. Okay, so among all of the diagrams I just mentioned, we will definitely talk about the three major diagrams. And I'm sure you know that language in which you create diagrams are called as UMLs. So what is a UML? Unified Modeling Language, where it is a language of diagrams. So this is where you will construct the diagrams. Okay, under UMLs there are 10 types of diagrams that are available. However, we will only work on 3 types of diagrams. Okay, what are the 3 type of diagrams? The first one is called as your use case diagram. The second one is called as an activity diagram. And the third one is called as a sequence diagram. Okay, so we have 3 diagrams that we will work on, and we'll make sure we construct them. So before we get into it, a use case diagram is drawn or modeled by a BA. An activity diagram is also drawn and modeled by a BA. Okay. A sequence diagram, however, is drawn and modeled by a developer. As a BA, you should have the readability knowledge. What does that mean? If at all the developer shows you this sequence diagram, you should be able to read the diagram. We'll get into the depth a little later, guys. But for now, this is the basic understanding of a use case of these 3 diagrams. Okay, so today we'll discuss about one of the diagram, and that is called as the use case diagram. Okay, now before I get into the diagram, first let's understand what does this use case diagram have. To be very simple, guys, to understand this very simply, we'll first differentiate or break down this use case diagram into 4 categories. Okay, the first one in my scenario would be the actors. Then you will actually have to talk about the use cases. Then we have something called as a system boundary, or the system that you have to develop, system to be developed. And the fourth one talks about the relationship. That's it. If you're able to understand these 4 criteria in a use case diagram, you will have no issues no matter what. Okay, so talking about the actors, guys, the first, we have different types of categories of actors. The first one is called as a primary actor and a secondary actor. So we have a primary actor and a secondary actor in the actors. Under use cases, we have essential use cases and we have supporting use cases. So to understand which system you are developing, you have a system boundary. Okay, and under relationships, we have many such relationships, guys, right? So under these relationships, we have probably associations. Okay, we have generalizations. We have include, and we have extend. So we have such relationships under use case diagram. So I will not try to explain them in this session, guys, because you have completed all of this with many examples in your workbook. So I will not going to touch this at all. However, I'm going to explain this using an example wherein you will actually understand how to use a use case diagram. Okay. So before I get into the use case diagram, I will definitely want to tell you very important things, guys. How to download or how to install MS Visio. Because MS Visio is not an open source tool where you can just get it through Google. However, you have to take an help of an admin and he will help you to install this MS Visio into your computer. So COPD helps you with the installation of this tool. You have to contact the nurturing team and they will help you, or they will allocate a admin to you, and that person, the concerned person, will install the tool into your system. So before you get into this or go forward with this recording, make sure you have these tools installed so that you can practice everything in the MS Visio. And that's a very important point here, guys, because organizations are still using this tool in a very elaborative manner. So make sure you have an access to the tool and you are practicing everything on this tool. Okay, so I hope this is everything is clear to all of you. Now let's get into an example. Okay, so for our understanding, I have used one of the example from our workbook. Okay, guys. So this is the example that I have pulled from our workbook. For this, you need to go to page number A29, point of sales terminal management system, that is there in our workbook, and you can get the copy of the workbook in the library section of our portal. Okay, if you go to the library section, you have this copy of this workbook. So please go to page number A29, appendix 29. You will find this this case study. Okay, so now let's get into this case study. First, it says construct a design element of a point of sales terminal management system that can be used for buying and selling of goods in the retail store. So what does that mean, sir? Guys, it says that it's just like if you go to buy any groceries in any supermarket, what do? You have to go and get the bill. Without that, you can't purchase the products. So point of sales is nothing but the system where the processing of the goods versus the amount happens. So when you go and give the goods, they will scan the code and they will tell you how much of amount it is, and you have to total the amount, and then they will have to pay and take the receipt and go home. Right? That is called as point of sales. Now, in this scenario, they have clearly explained us what is the whole process. See, when the customer arrives at the post checkpoint with the items to purchase, the cashier records. So first and foremost, they're saying that the customer will arrive at the post checkpoint. Okay, that is the first point that we have to understand. Second, cashier will record each item price and add the information to the running sales transaction. So cashier does two things. What does a cashier do? Cashier will first record the item and the price. Secondly, he will also add the item information to the running sales transaction. Clear? Then the description and the price of the current item are displayed. So here the actor is not doing anything, or the person is not doing it, is automatically displayed. Okay. On completion of the item entry, the cashier informs. So third point here is that the cashier would also inform the cashier would also inform the sales total and tax to the customer. So guys, what am I doing is I'm just breaking down the paragraph into points, which is very easy for us to understand what exactly is happening in the case study, nothing else. Okay, here the customer chooses the payment type. So I will say that here the customer will arrive at the this thing, and he'll also choose the payment type. And what payment type do we have? We have a cash, we have a check, credit, or debit. Clear? Next. So after the payment is made, the system generates a receipt and automatically updates inventory. So we have a system that will do what? Generate the receipt. It will generate the receipt, and update the inventory. Okay. What does a cashier do? Cashier also handovers the receipt to the customer. So guys, what did I do? I just pulled out and I've only broke down the complete case study into this scenario. So there is nothing else that the case study is explaining us, guys. Clear so far? right? So this is how I would also want you all to break down the case study so that you have no confusion, or most importantly, you're not missing any of the important content. Because if you don't take all the requirements into picture, what's going to happen is you might miss anything, or eventually it would uh, be an incomplete diagram. Okay, and accordingly, developer will also not able to understand anything. Clear so far? So now let's understand who could be the actors here. Okay, so first and foremost, if you really ask me, we have multiple actors, guys. Okay, the first actor, I'm sure you all know that it would be the cashier. Okay, he would be the cashier. The second one, the second actor here, it could be the system admin, or probably the inventory system that we have here, no? Inventory system, because it will generate system, it will update the, or inventory, I would use the word inventory system. And we also have the customer also, who could also be a actor. Okay, right? So we have a customer who's an actor, we have a cashier who could also be we also have a system who also is a actor. Okay, apart from this, it is also told to us, apart from this, there are also certain other actors which is not told to us, but there are there. What, who can they be? One, he could be the supplier. Okay, then we could also have the manager. We have two other actors which are not explained to us, but these are there in part of the this thing. Okay, guys, clear so far? Okay, now let's understand and identify the use case diagram. So guys, for that I am opening the MS Visio tool. For this, you have to just go to the, I have already installed MS Visio in my computer, guys. You just have to go to MS Visio there, and you have to open it. That's it. Let me just give me a second. Yes. So guys, currently we are using the 2007 version of MS Visio, and currently we have 2016, I believe. But the reason why we are using a 2007 version is because it is in a very simple format for beginners. This could be the very easy way to explain the scenario, because this way you will know what is coming where. In other versions, everything is combined, and for a beginner it will be very difficult. So don't worry, nothing is changing, only the way you look at the widgets might change. Okay, so for now we are using 2007 in our tutorial. So guys, once you open the MS Visio, this is the first screen that you will see as a part of the tool. Okay, so here I would select the software and database. Okay, when the double click on the software and database, you have three templates given by the tool Microsoft. That is database model diagram, the UML model diagram, and the Windows XP user interface. So among these three, I would pick the UML model diagram. Okay, so guys, this is like more like a drawing pad for our MS Visio, for your all diagrams. No matter what, all diagrams are mentioned, every time this is the drawing page. Okay, let's maximize this, guys. So I will take around 75%. So you can maximize it here as a 75%. Okay, guys. So now let's go and work on this diagram. So first and foremost, we will going to concentrate on the use case diagram, guys. So here in the use case diagram, I'm going to, these are all your templates or your widgets where you have the multiple objects to work on. Okay, here I'm going to select the UML use case. Okay, so first and foremost, we all know that we have to pull out what? A system boundary. So you will drag and drop the system boundary. Okay, you will drag and drop the system boundary, and once you have dragged it, please double click on the system and change the name. Point of sale terminal management system. Okay, point of sale system or point of sales terminal management system. I have renamed the system. Now I have clear clarity. Now I will identify the actor. So guys, first and foremost, according to us, This is a point of sales terminal management system, right? Here, what's very important? Here, what's very important is that we have to understand who are the actors. As I mentioned earlier, we have two categories of actors, right? Who are they? We have one primary actor and one secondary actor, right? So, under primary actor, as I mentioned earlier, we have a cashier, right? So, guys, according to me, if you really ask me, cashier would be the primary actor. The reason being he is the one who is going to use this system very rapidly. See, very important, guys. You have to question yourself. In point of sales terminal management system, is the customer doing a lot of activities? Is the point of sales handled only by the customer? No, it is handled exclusively by the cashier, not by the customer. Okay, so I would strongly say that the cashier would be the primary actor. Okay, so I will double click on this and I will change the name, stating it to be cashier. Okay, I will put it as cashier. Okay, next, once I have the cashier here, then I will talk about what could be his use cases. So first and foremost, guys, please drag this use case here. Okay, please drag this use case here. What does the cashier do, guys? Let me get that notepad here for our understanding. So if you look at my screen here, guys, I'm clearly mentioning that okay, the cashier first and foremost would record the item and the um, price, right? So according to you, what would I do? I would say that I would record the item. So please double click on it and say record the item. Okay, so guys, for our understanding, we can actually make it. Okay, guys, clear so far? Okay, once the person has recorded the item, what will I do? I will first, for recording the item, what is a prerequisite? You also have to understand the price. So is price include or extend? So I would use the word include because, just a second. So guys, for your understanding, please have the question with you because it would be very important. It is very important for you to follow the question. Okay. To record the item, he would have to make sure he has a price in it. So I'll double click on it and I will use the price. So guys, according to me, it has to have an include relationship. The reason being, what is include? Include is a compulsory supporting use case. So this is an essential use case and this would be a supporting use case because the supporting use case is supporting the recording. So in order to record the item, the person must have a price. As I mentioned earlier, in Visio, we have an icon called as users. So please understand, users is nothing but include function. Users is nothing but the include function and it has to come here. So I'm just taking it and I'm dragging it, guys. That's it. Okay, and I'm going to point it towards the price. And if you see this, it is users. And please understand, whenever you're saying an include function, it has to point towards the supporting use case. Excuse me, guys. It has to point towards the supporting use case. That is very, very important. Now, once the person is recording the item, he also has to have what an item name also, right? Without that, he can't record the item. So I'm again using another include function saying item name. Okay, I will say okay. So now again I'm going to use the uses. So I'm again going to see this. I have a uses. So we have two include functions here, which says that you need to have this item name and the price. Okay, so I'm going to create a relationship between the cashier and the use case. For that, I would use the communication option here. So please make sure you drag it from the arm of the actor to the use case. That's very, very important, guys. Make sure it is properly placed. Okay, now if you see I have end items, end one and end two. I will double click on it and I will remove this here. Okay, so I have from the cashier to the use case diagram. Okay, next let's get into the second category of tip. So the cashier also runs the sales transaction using, he will add information, sales total and tax and everything, and he will run the sales transaction, right? So we will put another case here that says runs the sales transaction, runs the sales transaction. Again, I have to put the communication line between the actor's arm to the sales transaction. Double click on it and remove the ends. Completed. Okay, once you have the sales transaction, now again to run the sales transaction, what he would do, he would need the sales total, and also he would need compulsory the tax in order to run this. Again, I would do this. I would need a sales total and I would also need a tax. So again, there are two compulsory supporting use cases, right? So what will I get? I need to use the include function again. Okay, again, I would use the include function. I will again use the include function. Okay, again, now, guys, in order to make the sales total, what do I need? I need the price. Is it compulsory that I need the price? Right? So again, what I would do, I would again put a include. For me to have the sales total, I need the price. So compulsory, this is again an include function. Please understand this is called as a use case to a use case relationship. Okay, once it is done, the cashier would view the information. Let me again write this. View the information. What information would he view? He would view the complete item price and item description. Okay, then here item price and item description is not compulsory. It is optional. He can even view it, or even if does not want, he cannot, don't have to view it. So again, I would say item description and the price. Item, which is why I have a extend option, guys. It is very, very optional in nature. I'm just saying if you want to view, you can also view the individual prices. Okay, which is why I'm saying it is extends. Okay, done. Again, let me put a communication right from the actor to the use case. I'm putting an actor to the use case. Again, I will remove the end items. End one and end two is removed. Okay, done. Then now we will also have to talk about the fourth activity of the cashier, that is nothing but the payment. So he will receive the payment, right? He will receive the payment. And then on what option would he receive the payment? It would be cash, it would be debit or credit. He would also receive it through the check. So there are three ways in which he would receive the. Okay. Again, I would not use the word act. I would not use the word users or anything, because it is not a supporting use case. This is nothing but a part of the payment. Okay. So I would not want to use any of the activity things here. So I would only say, I would say it is extended. Sorry, not extended. I'll remove the, just give me. Okay, just double click on it and remove the extents. Just guys, go here, remove this extents in the name. In the stereo tab type, you have a blank. Take the blank. That's it. Again, double click, remove this extents. Go to the stereo type. You have an option of blank. Just select the, that's it. Okay. So I am going to again use a communication line from the cashier to the use case type. So guys, please understand, all the lines must be from the arm of the actor only. Please don't connect it in anywhere from his body. Okay, done. So now I have finished the activities of the cashier. Okay, then now we have a system clock. What does system clock do? Or a system that would generate the bill and update the inventory, right? So I will first take another actor here, who is a system boundary. Double click on it. I will say system clock. System clock. I will say okay. I will use the, because system will generate the bill, and I can also update the inventory. Okay. So now I have to put the communication to this. So now when you're updating the system, definitely if you want, you could include another actor, but because the case study has not given us about anything else, so we don't want to include it. Now, if you want to generate the bill, we can have a secondary actor called as a printer, who can print the receipt. Okay, guys. So I'm going to use a communication from the to the, remove this and finish it. So guys, if you remember, I have already I showed you that we can have many other actors also. Okay, so now let me share that screen where I have written that, guys. See, as I mentioned here, I told you that we can also have other actors that could be your supplier and the manager and the customer. Now, why is the customer not a part of the actor? See, here please understand, the customer is only arriving at the post checkpoint. He's not using the system yet, and he's just choosing the payment type. He's not using, he's only saying I would use paying the cash or check or credit or debit, but the whole process is handled by the cashier, which is why customer is not a part of the case study. He's only there. He's also very important, I won't disagree, but because he has no activity in the point of sale system, so we're not going to put him in the use case diagram. Okay. And supplier and manager are very important in the real world, because if the supplier does not supply the products, how can you have the um, items? Neither how, if the manager doesn't update the inventory, how can you get the update? However, because it is not mentioned in the case study, we are not modeling it in the case study. Please remember this. Okay. The reason being, if the client does not want us to talk about these two or these three actors, we will not include them or draw them in the use case diagram. It's very, very important. So please understand, whatever UMLs you're talking about must go according to the client requirement. So whenever you have a client meeting, you can go tell him, sir, I see that in the real world, we can also include a supplier and a manager. Shall we also include them in the UMLs? So that could be one of the advice as a BA you must give, because the client might not know or might not be aware of what the in real market or probably the competitors are using. Okay, so you can include them. But please remember, whenever you are creating these diagrams, make sure you follow the case study or the requirements in totality. Please do not assume anything or add anything to confuse the client or the other stakeholders, guys. Okay, so that's very, very important note. So having said that, if I'm talking about the use case diagram again, so this is how you will create the use case diagram. Okay, guys. So let me just put it down. So this is your point of sales terminal management system use case diagram. Okay, so if you have any questions, let us know. Please let the nurturing team know. They will help you with understanding later. Okay, guys, this is how we will create the use case diagram. So now let's get into the activity diagram.